evening we're going into session 9, which is successful parenting. A lot of you may feel that you've already been there, done that, got that badge. Some of you may be feeling that you still have a long way to go, and some of you are trying to do it with your grandchildren and get them into the correct disciplinary routines. As I stand here tonight, I have 3 of them at home because Justine and Warren are on a grade 8 camp. So, boy, you should have seen me. I was flying from pillar to post between McDonald's and bathtubs and trying to find clothes and all kinds of things. And I was sitting there thinking, Lord, you've got an incredible sense of humor, because tonight I'm speaking on successful parenting. So we all know what it feels like, and I'm still practicing. To those that are live streaming, I ask that you please just follow the link below if you need to get the notes. So pick that up. It's great to have you connected with us. And it's absolutely wonderful that you are able to tune in. Thank you very much for those of you live streaming that are doing your assignments, and even those that are just observing. Good for you, as long as you're getting something out of it and you're growing. If you can help people, you've achieved everything that you need to achieve. So let's launch in this evening to successful parenting, and I want to just cover some of the basics that you know about, but we often overlook some of the most simple things. The most simple things are the fact that we take for granted that children know exactly what we're thinking. Just because we as adults know what's going on doesn't mean they know what's going on. And one of the biggest things that I've seen with parents is that there is no explanations given to children. If you explain to children very clearly what you are doing and why you are doing it, they follow like little scarpies. But we expect them to know, so we don't pre-warn them. They have no clue what's coming. We just expect them to jump when we say jump. There's no time given for them to adapt. There's no time for them to even process what has to happen. And then we immediately expect them to respond. I have practiced this my whole life, and it has worked unbelievably well. So before you have bath time, before you have supper time, before you have bedtime, you explain the procedure that is going to happen. It works every single time. So again, parents are shouting, they're trying to do supper, they're trying to get kids over here, they're trying to get kids over there. I explain to the girls that I have a meeting tonight and they need to get into the bath. I put out their clothes and I told them this is what's going to happen. Auntie Nicole will be popping over there because Bruce has to go out, and I need them to do this, that, and that. They have clear instructions, and I guarantee they will follow them because they know what the expectations are. So we definitely fall short in parenting because we expect children, they are the kids, we are the adults. When we say jump, you jump. But kids don't jump unless they understand why they have to jump. We want them to jump without an explanation. So somebody comes up to you and says, you need to do that. And you say, but why? And you get an explanation back. If a kid says to a parent, but why, they get smacked. And that's where we've got to understand. They are little human beings, and we are molding their character. The way that we treat them is the way that they are going to treat others. So for me, it's very, very sad to see how unfortunate it is. Parenting skills are lacking. They really are lacking, and parents haven't taken into consideration a whole lot of aspects that are very important. If you don't have kids yet, this will be very beneficial. And as I said the session before, if you don't have kids, at least you know how to handle the neighbor's kids. It makes a very, very big difference. Anybody's children, you can deal with them as long as you are explaining why you are doing what you're doing. They need an explanation. They don't need to know your private reasons why you're doing it, but they do need an explanation. So let's have a look at our notes. And the first statement is really very, very true. Having children makes you no more a parent than having a piano makes you a pianist. It's the one thing that we do without any preparation. In order to be successful, we need to apply time, effort, and total commitment to the task of child rearing, remembering that the Bible tells us in James, If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. So the adventure of successful parenting is no longer a priority in society, as many other pressing factors contribute to a failure in this regard. Parents have lost the plot, and the big question is why? Because of various factors, and you have to take this into consideration. Where have all the values gone? People are very quick to say, children have no more manners. The children of today, they are absolutely shocking. They are so badly behaved. And there isn't a child on this planet that is responsible. Because your children will respond to how you nurture, treat, and respect them. If you are tired and you put them in front of a TV, or you put them in front of an Xbox, or you put them in front of a game center, and then you want them to come out of that and look at you and say, yes, ma, no, ma, 10 bags full, you've got something else happening, because their brain is being completely affected by everything that they're watching. It's not disrespect when they override your authority. It's because they are in another world. So again, the explanation. There is nothing wrong with letting your children play games, as long as you say to them, you are going to have 15 minutes or you're going to have 30 minutes, and after that, when I tell you it's time, you need to actually go and do that. If you do that, it qualifies you to earn another 20 minutes later on. Literally, that easy. If you don't listen to me and I have to have a fight with you, you will not see the Xbox or you will not see the game again. So if you listen to me and you go and do what I need you to do, it's going to work perfectly. So when the kids get up in the morning at my house, the first thing they want to do is watch TV. And I said to them, I have no problem with you watching TV because they do love Peppa Pig and whatever else is on. But you get ready first. So everything needs to be done, and if you have time remaining, you may with pleasure watch TV for 10 to 15 minutes. It's not a hassle. And then Georgie wants to start talking, the hind leg of a donkey, and I'm saying to her, that's fine as long as you know that you're talking in your own time. Because when she's talking in my time, it's a very different story. So you can talk, I don't mind, it's lovely to listen, but remember this is your TV time. Then she's like, she's got to make a decision. So it's very, very important. The aspect of using a naughty corner is a phenomenal thing. And I know I have had people in my office, immediately I will say to them, we need to actually talk about how you're going to bring your child under control. And the first thing they'll say to me is, don't tell me the naughty corner. And I'm saying, tell me, how do you apply the naughty corner? Because I use the naughty corner, and I'm telling you, I do not have a single hassle. The naughty corner pulls everything straight. And you say, but I put my kid there and they don't respond. And there are so many things that you're doing. If you're using a naughty corner effect, but you're not using it correctly, what you are doing is you are messing with a system that works beautifully, but you are not applying the correct system. Then you say the naughty corner doesn't work. The naughty corner works every single time if you do it correctly. If you do not do it correctly, it becomes a big problem. So those are some things I want to speak to you about, because I believe in counseling. You can relay what I'm saying, and I am speaking from a platform of having applied much of what I'm talking about. I know it works. I have applied it. I know it works. There are so many difficulties that parents face, and they really are unnecessary difficulties. And there are many reasons why they happen. So the values are going out the back door, not because the children are bad children, but because the parents are busy parents. So when you get a disrespectful child, if that child was in a better, more established, routine, and disciplined environment, I guarantee you wouldn't have a problem. And kids have an inherent ability to be able to manipulate better than any politician you've ever met. They have an incredible ability. And if you don't read that, you are going to be the sucker. You're going to be roped in like you cannot believe. So let's have a look at the energy crisis, because in our day and age, we're dealing with a serious energy crisis. In order to provide such things as gadgets and games and name brand clothing and luxury pleasures, parents give their time and energy to the companies that they work in. All their time and energy is actually given in the name of doing what's best for their children. They give every ounce of their day to secular employment. They save their best behavior for office time, and they provide excellent service to anyone who needs them, including those they've never met before. When they get home in the evening, they are sapped of all energy, they are grumpy, they are demanding, they are impatient, they are intolerant, and often very unwise in how they discipline. There is inconsistency and exasperation due to exhaustion. An attempt at successful parenting is limited to a couple of hours, perhaps on a Saturday morning, in between running errands and shopping for groceries for the week ahead. This scenario can be likened to owning an extremely precious jewel, only to spend nearly every moment of each day fussing about the box that the jewel was packaged in. We have to get back to the values of Scripture and sort out our priorities as parents. On that note, in the counseling cases that I've handled over the past 35 years, the greatest thing that children have ever wanted is to spend time with their parents. There is nothing that you can give a child that will make up the value of time spent with parents. So I have parents who are completely exasperated. We've given everything to our kids. They are in the best schools. We've given them bicycles. They've now got mopeds to be able to get where they want to go. We've done everything for them, and they completely disrespect us. Because children are not interested in things. Things do not fill the vacuum that they are lacking. So when I ask the question, and I always ask the question, when was the last time that the two of you went out for a milkshake? And they look at me like I crawled out of cheese. Because when you take your kids out and you have one-on-one time with them, and I'm not talking about going to Spur and letting them run around in that play center. I'm talking about taking your teenager out. And they say, no, Ma, I don't really want to go. That's okay, let me know when you're ready. Taking them out and having a conversation, not with, tell me more about your life, but how have you been feeling? How do you feel that you're coping? Don't ask them, are you having problems with your friends? No, you are asking not for information about that, but you're asking about them. How are you feeling? How have you been coping? Is there anything at all that I can do to help you, to make life a little bit easier for you? How's your study timetable? Can I assist you with any of those things? I want to be there for you. So that no matter what happens, when they reach a crunch, they know that they've had an offer of help from you. Parents are so busy punishing and correcting that they are never there to tell their children what they should do and how they can actually assist them and help them. Teenagers' brains are wired in the most amazing way. There is a particular growth spurt that takes place in a teenager's brain, and at that particular time when that growth spurt is taking place, it is a biochemical change that takes place in them. They do experience diminished responsibility. It's not that they're being naughty. They are curious, they are experimenting, and depending entirely on how you handle that situation is dependent on how the outcome will result. So you are not being a compromising parent when you understand certain things that happen with your teenagers. Unfortunately, a lot of the difficulty comes in, and I'm sorry I have to raise this, but it is a factor. Men do not understand how teenagers operate. With men, it's either black or white, and it's probably because in their day, it was black and white, and you just got a big hiding if you didn't do what you were supposed to do. But I found that many, many teenagers are pushed further and further away from their support system because of mismanagement and a lack of successful parenting. When you're parenting a teenager, you are parenting on a totally different level to when you're parenting your adolescents that are younger. So we need to do a priority audit. The enemy of our souls is only too happy to keep us so busy that we cannot cement the lives of our children in the foundation of the Word of God. The Lord has clearly indicated that we have limited time to steer and train, to nurture and instill values of eternal worth. Many parents with good intentions will diligently pray each night for their children, hoping that somehow their prayers will suffice without the necessary actions. Remember that prayers are vital, and the Lord honors those who diligently seek His wisdom, but prayers should be supported by love in action and discipline, and should not substitute these things. Remember, teenagers are looking. They know that your words are cheap. Don't tell them you're going to do something and you don't do it. Because if you make promises and you break those promises, there is a little part of their soul that dies every time it happens. And that little part of their soul is the respect component. So there are many, many parents who are going to blast their kids because they missed a curfew time. But when they have to be fetched from school, they sometimes have to wait 2 hours. You've got to remember, monkey see, monkey do. If you do not respect them, how on earth should they respect you? Why should they be in on time for their curfew when you can't even fetch them from school, which is equally as important? So if you're running late, you need to communicate those things, because that is all that we're talking about. Communication is the name of the game. Don't expect your children to know what's going on. They don't. If you are facing a very difficult time for whatever reason, you will sit your children down and you will say, I'm going to be asking for your understanding, because right now this is happening and I'm feeling rather stressed and I need your support. Will you help me? Do you think children are not going to respond and do everything in their power to make you feel better if you actually explain that to them? But we don't. We bottle it up, we take it out on them, we become frustrated, we react. They don't have a clue what's cutting, and most of the times we don't have a clue either. We're trying to analyze and work out ourselves why we're feeling the way we're feeling, and we haven't even identified the trigger of what made us feel that way. And we're expecting the little souls around us to understand. They will not understand unless you explain to them. The situational scenarios that are very, very serious in our day and age, what has gone wrong? And the major influential factors in our modern society that contribute to the downfall of discipline and balance in homes is very much revolving around the fact that 1 in every 2 families face divorce. When divorce takes place, again, I refer to the statistics only of what I have worked with, because I can get statistics from anywhere in the world and I can quote thousands and thousands, but I want to work from the people that I have dealt with and the divorce scenarios and the difficulty that the kids have gone through. It takes 1 session to explain to children what's happening in a divorce, and it settles them completely. It changes their entire outlook. And then there are children that grow into adults that sit in life today, and they still do not understand what happened. They still have no clue why their parents divorced. And then what happens is that when they're trying to find a partner, they go in with all kinds of fears, because they're saying, my parents were divorced, I'm not committing to this person because of what I went through when I was a child. But what you went through as a child doesn't necessarily need that, it should not be molding your life. Because what happens to 2 people over here is not the same thing that happens to 2 people over here. And if your parents would just inform you of why certain things happened, and again, I am please reiterating, I'm not talking about personal details. I'm just saying we've got to stop the whole issue. So it's very important. I've got a little professor sitting in the audience tonight, and he told me he has got 2,000 questions. And that's when I said, I think you're going to be a professor. So he's got his hand up there. I think he wants to ask lots of questions about this subject. Maybe another day when I'm not being recorded. So let's look at the situations. We've got a lot of single parenting. Single parenting is not God ordained. It's not God's perfect will. It never is or was God's perfect will. It is His permissive will. He permits it, but it is so far from what God had planned. The situation of single parents carries with it aspects of guilt, and that there isn't a father figure or mother figure in the home. This results in compromise of rules and boundaries as a compensation, which ultimately leads to more insecurity in a child's life. So when your child asks you for something and you don't have the money for it, and you say, no, you can't, and then they get upset, immediately you don't stop and think, I don't want this child to grow up to be a brat. I don't want them to have everything that opens and shuts. Where does your mind go? Oh, let me just buy them a bicycle because they don't have a dad. Danger, 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 danger. There are fathers that are not in the home. Mothers, single parenting. The fathers take the children over weekends, and those children are not disciplined under any circumstances. It leads to so much devastation in those children's lives because they are allowed to be exposed to things that under normal circumstances in a married couple home, you would never let your children do what fathers let their children do. Fathers will give and give and give and give without drawing a line, without saying no, without any boundaries, because they feel guilty that they are absent from the home. Literally, I would say 10 out of 10 cases of people that I have dealt with, these are some of the real issues. So all we can say to single parents is don't confuse molding your child with making your mistakes. Because you've made mistakes, don't now allow the mistakes to filter into your child's life. You have to draw the line. You have to say, I'm still going to be firm, because the firmer you are as a single parent, the more secure your child becomes. Children that are ill-disciplined are not secure. They are certainly not happy. Children that are given everything that opens and shuts are not happy. There's so much more that they want out of life. It's not going to come from the things that you buy them, from the places that you take them to, spoiling them all the time, going to movies, going here, going there, making sure that they always kept busy because it's my time to be with them. They need your undivided attention. And it doesn't have to be for 5 hours at a time because their concentration span's only about 20 minutes. So little snippets of 20 minutes at a time make a world of difference. Sitting down and doing something with them that they don't normally do, being courageous enough to go on some swing, whatever it is, just showing that you're prepared to invest. Because it takes a lot of emotional effort from a parent to spend time rather than to spend money. Spending money is the easiest thing in the whole world. And here's the worst part of it all. And it's so sad, because when you see the scenario from the picture that I'm painting, you will see how ridiculously sad this is. Mothers that are single mothers, they don't boost the father of their children because they are hurting. So they break down the very father figure that is going to fill the vacuum in that child's life. And they create a tremendous amount of hurt. And what's more, here comes the scenario. They are on about the lack of money they get from him all the time. He should be giving more. If you wanted those school shoes, your father should be paying for them. So the whole thing about care comes back to, what is he providing for you? Because if he provides for you, it shows he cares. And that is a lie. That is a lie. Providing for your children is one thing, but if a father would not be harassed because the mother has been so badly hurt, that he could collect his children and take them out and spend quality time with them and not come back and be questioned about how much he spent on them and why he hasn't paid his maintenance and when the next check is going to arrive and what a rubbish he is because he actually didn't do this and didn't do that. Every single conversation that a ex-wife has with an ex-husband, the only people you are damaging are the children. And it breaks my heart because I deal with those children and they don't have a clue. They didn't have a choice. They have no clue how to actually be counselors. At 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years old, they are expected to actually comfort their parents. They don't even know what went on, but they're trying to be the heroes in the situation. And the parents are constantly asking for more and more and more and more instead of saying, my darling, you're going to see your father this weekend. I want you to go out and have a blast. Enjoy every minute with him because he is your dad. He will always be your father, and I will always respect him as your father. It didn't work with us when we were together, but sometimes two people don't get on. So he loves you, I love you, and as long as we're not together in the same house, you can have two people that love you. And I always, when I'm dealing with the little ones, I always say, you get 2 presents at Christmas time, you get 2 presents at birthday times because you get one from mom and you get one from dad. And they're both probably going to be big presents. And you're going to have so much fun with dad and you're going to have so much fun with mom. So much so that I mentioned before, I've had children in my office crying because their parents want to get together again. And that is a fact. And they're saying, ma'am, please, no. I've got cases at the moment that I'm dealing with in the school. Ma'am, please, they mustn't. They mustn't. And I'm saying, this is a bit tricky as a counselor. I just want to get hold of you and tell you, please don't get back together again. These are kids that have been exposed to blood. They've been exposed to fighting. They've been exposed to police cars. They've been exposed to swearing on another level. They've been exposed to things that no child should ever be exposed to. And then the parents are saying, okay, for the sake of the kids, my darling, we're going to try again. And I want to say, for the sake of the kids, darling, you go to Siberia. Because that's what you should be doing. Don't ever think that for the sake of the kids, you should actually put up with that kind of lifestyle. Never, ever, ever. The only victims in that situation are the children. They didn't ask for it. Then go on to emotional manipulation. A good possibility that a single parent has an element of sadness or self-pity about certain situations, and consciously or subconsciously they may use a form of manipulation to get their children to listen or respond to pleas for assistance. Another tragedy. If you had a father, if I hadn't gone through what I had gone through, at least your father would be here and he would be able to get you through the bath and he would be able to do your homework with you. You have to do your homework on your own because I don't have anybody to help me. Whoa, poor me. Whose fault? It's your choice. You married the man, not the kid. Kid's got nothing to do with your decision. How many children are exposed to their moms using manipulation because they haven't tried negotiating, they haven't tried setting up a system that works, they haven't tried boundaries, so they're going to actually use manipulation. And how on earth do you think narcissists are triggered? It starts from when they are very, very little, because they get to see how mom is able to manipulate a situation, and it does happen also with dads, but I have to say majority of the time it's women that actually do it to the children because women are far more emotional. So hurt, there's tremendous amount of hurt on behalf of men being hurt by women, but somehow men are not as reactive. They have a way of keeping it under control a lot more. So a man will look at the child and will actually say, I do love you dearly, and I'm going to actually separate it. A woman, when she gets emotional, that particular filter system that should protect is removed. And then afterwards, she will genuinely say how sorry she is, but she loses that control. And that is very, very hard. So there's a lot happening. I really, really encourage parents who are going through divorces to seek counseling so that the children can at least have a little bit of a head start to get through this extremely difficult situation and not to be manipulated. We do it without even knowing that we are doing it. But it's not the right way to handle something. And it seemed to come to the fore more over Christmas, where people are saying, if you don't listen to me, you are not going to get any presents. Come on. Show me a parent. Show me a grandparent that because their kid was naughty, never had a present under the Christmas tree. You know it's a lie. And the worst of it all, the kids know it's a lie. They know exactly what you're talking about. And if they're little enough, they are afraid. But if they're old enough, they know you're a liar. It's your choice. Fear or fiction. And you start losing respect because you make threats that you cannot follow through with. Then let's have a look at the fact of parents leaning on children. This is a very big one in society. So you've got a couple that go through a divorce and they've got a teenager. And at that given point in time, obviously most times the children will stay with the mom. And the mom has absolutely nobody else but the teenage child. If I were to tell you how many situations there are of that taking place, 50% of people are divorced, and of that 50% that are divorced, there are 80% of parents that literally will lean on their children. They lean on them. They use manipulation. They will divulge things to their teenage daughters because they have nobody else to talk to. And they start speaking about stuff that children should never ever be exposed to. So what this really means is that parents are offloading and they are sharing way too much intimate information that as adolescent minds cannot fully comprehend because they simply are not there yet. Part of the brain, part of the mind has not developed yet. They are not there yet. And it's tragic to hear mothers in counseling telling how close they are to their daughters, having shared so much, and how their child has been a pillar of strength to them. And I grieve in my spirit because of that. Because your child has had to grow up and become an adult way too fast. They may think their child is wonderfully strong and oh so mature, but on closer inspection, they'll discover a young person who's had to face way more than they should have to, often resulting in depression that they cannot disclose because they are supposed to be supportive. So I have parents who will bring their children for counseling, and they will say, you know what, I know that Mary's gone into a state of depression, and she was doing so well at school, but she's no longer doing so well at school. And you know what, we went through a divorce 2 years ago, and I thought she was handling it so well. But now she's actually feeling depressed. And the kid is relieved that the father is out of the house. But now that the father's not taking the flak, the kid is. Because where you have got conflict, you remove one party and the behavior can continue. And it is extremely important that parents stop and realize what they are doing. They need to get to a counselor and offload their problems with another adult and get home and be a parent. And that's what's happening with single parenting. The children end up sacrificing important aspects of their childhood and natural developmental milestones. It's not good. No matter what parents are facing, children are children, and they are the adult. Parents should seek counseling from Bible-based professionals and allow their young ones to grow and develop without the burdens of life on their shoulders. These burdens are the result of wrong choices that the adults made. It's not the kids' fault and should not be their burden to carry. They've got their own burdens to carry. Then we move into the field of step families. And oh boy, this is where sparks do fly. Doesn't matter where you come from. If you have step families, sparks are going to fly. As a biological parent, it's totally normal and instinctive to be protective over your children. There are all kinds of emotions involved with step-parent intervention. So often biological parents will be extremely defensive of discipline by a step-parent, especially if it involves smacking or physical discipline. And there are several ways to address the problem. Number one, communicate, communicate, communicate. Very important. You have to discuss your methods of discipline and your expectations with your spouse in private, out of sight and hearing of the children. You need to speak with one voice and always be seen as a team. Any defaulting on this must again be taken back to the boardroom in private and sorted out there. You cannot argue in front of the kids, as often the situation will become explosive and irrational. Biological parents should never, ever humiliate their partner by overriding their authority. This can be degrading and often leads to serious conflict in the marriage. The child then feels that they have a certain power to control and will play one parent against the other to get what they want. There's another scenario that occurs here, and that is that a step-parent will try to discipline, the parent will intervene and degrade the step-parent. The child will actually feel like the hero, and the step-parent will not take it out on the parent, they will take it out on the child. And the anger of the step-parent towards the child is because of the disrespect from the other parent. Think about scenarios that you know of. That's what happens. So, little Johnny, we don't have any Johnnies here, do we? We don't, I don't think. Little Johnny is incredibly cheeky to his mother. And his mother says, stop. No, stop. Stop it, you're going to get into trouble. And stepdad is overhearing, and he says, Johnny, you better stop speaking to your mother like that, or I am going to give you a smack. Mommy then feels bad. Ooh, this is not real dad. So it's okay, it's no problem. And Johnny continues to be disrespectful. So stepdad gets up and is ready to tackle little Johnny, who does, by the way, need a good clip. And mommy intervenes and stops that process. Now, who is stepdad angry with? Little Johnny. Little Johnny is a brat. You haven't brought your children up properly. He's an absolute little pain in the butt. What are you doing with him? How can you do that to your child? He's obnoxious. Do you hear those words coming forth? Does he ever say, you are an idiot, you are a silly woman, you are obnoxious, why are you doing that to your child? Why are you stopping me from actually doing this to your child? You have those arguments as well, but you don't hear the personal accusations going towards the mom. It all happens about the child. And remember, the child is only as good as the parent. The parent is failing, and the child is going to take the flak. If I were to ask you, for those that have had step-parents, you know how difficult it is. You know of people who have had stepchildren. And when you speak to those people who have had stepchildren, or you have been a stepchild, do you remember the humiliation and the degradation that happens when the step-parent takes out their anger and their wrath on the stepchild? So when mommies or daddies, but mainly mommies, when they become defensive and they intervene, what they are doing is they are not protecting, they are creating more animosity. And those are the things that you've got to really stop and think about. So in a scenario where little Johnny is being disrespectful, there needs to be an agreement. You may intervene. You may smack my child if they are being disrespectful. These are the things that you can intervene with. If they are rude, if they are arrogant, if they don't do their homework, if they do this, if they do that, if they do the other. There are one or two things where I believe you are not going to be sensitive, and I would like to deal with that. Please do not get involved at the times of that, and that. But if they are disrespectful, you may. Soon as you give permission and stepdad gets involved, you know you have to step back. So it's very important. Kids that are disciplined, be it by mother or by stepdad, as long as the discipline is done with love, the more the mothers interfere, the less the discipline is done with love. It's dangerous. It's not healthy at all. Then, step parents need to fully understand the responsibility they take on when uniting with somebody. They can expect to be seen by the kids as an intruder and not to be trusted. Developing bonding takes time, not money. Trying to buy the favor of your prospective new family will not strengthen the bonding process, because kids have an incredible knack of seeing through this kind of superficial strategy. So when a new person comes into the picture, what is the best thing that they can do? And I'm going to open it. What is the best thing that a person coming in, let's say, for instance, there's a woman, she's been divorced, she's met somebody, and she brings that person into her home. What's the best thing that that person can do? Remain polite. Don't try and be over the top. Don't force the process. Just be real. Talk to them if they talk to you. Don't go out of your way to actually go and have a look at what they're building in their room and how the computer works and everything else, because they know exactly what's going on. They are so smart. Just be a friend, a normal friend that would walk in and say, this is how it's happening, this is where it's happening. The guys that come in that try to actually be the heroes, and then, let me take you for ice cream. Let's go to Spur. I'll take you to Spur. They're like, keep away from my mother. Watch out. Just watch out. I don't need Spur. Just watch out. Kids are sharp. They are so sharp. So just keep it real. There are some excellent resources available on this, and I think it's well worth the reading. Let's have a look at the parental roles in the stages of development, because people do not pay a lot of attention to the parental roles, and it is very, very important that you are reading the situation correctly at a given point in time. So your strategy is going to change every 7 years. Your strategy for parenting needs to change every 7 years. And before we even go into this, do you remember when you looked up to your parents, if everything was going according to plan, you could look up to them and you didn't care what they said about you, and you would just look at them and think, oh, they're talking about me, and that's funny. Ha, 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 look at this happened, that's happened. And then you become a 17-year-old and your mother wants to say what you did. You bumped the car or you did something, and you're like, shut up, don't say anything. You become self-conscious completely. There's a massive difference between a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old who wants to ask 2,000 questions and a teenager who doesn't want to open their mouth. They don't want to open their mouth. They don't want you to know anything about them. This is my life. And your most embarrassing moment is when your mother comes to fetch you from school and goes inside the gate. She must just sit in the car. She mustn't get out. Mustn't get out that car. They don't want you to be seen. You're just there for money. I'm only joking. So from the age of 0 to 7, you are a protector, and they want your protection constantly. You are their commander, and you can command them. They want you to be in control of their lives. They want you to say yes and no. Even if they have their little tantrum, they want to be controlled because it brings security. And you are the figurehead that they look up to. They adore you. They idolize you. They haven't got a clue how human you really are. Those are the years when you are the superhero, and you can make the most of it, believe me. From the age of 7 to 14, there's a lot of hormonal changes taking place, and this is where you ask a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow up, and they say a millionaire. It's like, Mom, just give me the bucks. I just want the bucks. I want to go to movies. I want to go and have a blast. It's all about social interaction. It's actually socializing. You are a provider. And this is where teenagers want to pack their clothes. They haven't even got a suitcase. They use black bags. And they're ready to pack their bags and leave home. And you're like, that's interesting. Good luck with that. Really, good luck. Let's see how far you get. You are their coach. And this is where it's very, very hard because you've got to actually coach them even if they don't want it. But you are a coach. And this is where you are seen as the fuddy-duddy. You are the fuddy-duddy. I'm sorry, you can be very young still. You are the fuddy-duddy. So there's a tremendous amount taking place in their lives between 7 and 14. From the age of 14 to 21 years old, you have to propel them to make the right choices, but you cannot lecture them to death. Parents lecture. Even I would want to get out of that house after I listen to what the parents are saying. They are literally draining the life out of the kids because they think the kids are not listening. The kids have heard, they know, but what's happening is the parent is talking and talking and talking and not putting any consequences into place. Let me tell you, one consequence is worth 10,000 lectures. Lectures count for nothing. There is a switch that happens in teenagers' brains and some husbands' brains. They switch off when they hear that voice. And you're like, why isn't he hearing me? Because you sound worse than the lawnmower. You're going on and on and on. Why don't you try a simple question like, are you prepared to do this for me? And then he has to respond. Because you see, when you talk and you don't expect a response, he can switch off. With teenagers, they are very specific. They want to go places, they want to do things. But you need to get down to, why do you want to do that? Do you think that's a good idea? How do you feel about if this were to happen? Because when they are thinking about going to a party, they do not care how they get there. They do not care if the person that is driving them has already had 6 drinks. They don't care. They're focused on the event, not on the process. So we say, why would you get into the car with the person who's been drinking? And they're like, you've missed the point, Ma. I want to go to that party. Give me any vehicle, I'll drive in it. I don't care if a person's been drinking or they've been doing this or they've been doing that. Just get me to the party. And that's what you've got to sit down and explain. So if this happens, why? What are you going to do? Let's do a little bit of a role play, and that's what you're actually speaking to them, and you're saying, you find yourself in a situation where you didn't know the person taking you to the party would be drinking, and they have been drinking. What are you going to do? And the kids that are terrified of their parents will get into the car with that drunken driver and hope for the best. But the kids that have had this little talk and had some explanation will say, I will phone you. And that's all you want as a parent. Phone me if you're at a party and the person has been drinking. Phone me if you get to a party and you have been drinking. I will fetch you and we will actually talk through some of the things that we need to rectify. Because believe me, they're going to do it, whether you know about it or you don't know about it. They're doing it. The biggest thing is, how much are they going to keep from you? You want them to actually not have the fear of, I'm going to be in so much trouble. I'm going to be grounded for 2 years. I'm going to be killed. I had a kid say, ma'am, my father can't know. He can't know about this. He's going to kill me. And I'm like, no, don't worry. Don't just hang in there. We'll make a plan. This is what teenagers do. And if you've met a teenager that hasn't done it, boy, oh boy, what a gem. So those are the things. You become their counselor. You are not their sergeant, major, commander, party pooper. You don't want them to go to parties. but you have to operate with them. Teenagers often work in opposites as well. You have to actually make sure that you give the information and talk through what worries you without being highly strung. And ultimately, you become a friend that can be trusted. So we look at the fact of children, burden or blessing. It's often the case to find that most undisciplined children are the result of undisciplined parents who, for whatever reason, do not follow through with instructions given, and they allow their children to override their authority at all times. Therefore, the burden of such undisciplined children can largely be blamed on the mismanagement by parents. Words are never enough to make an impact. As a parent, we expect our children to listen to us when we speak, and like little angels, to quickly attend to what we are requesting. And this has never and will never be the case. Human beings, whether young or older, learn through consequences, not just words. I remind you of Adam and Eve, who were told not to do something, and they did it. And they were cast out of the garden. God still loved them. He still made an alternative plan, but there was a definite consequence. And that is, it's no longer going to be plain sailing, buddy. This is going to be tough. You're going to toil very seriously. But I do still love you. So let's put into place the consequences. Therefore, once the boundaries are set and the consequences experienced, you are more than likely going to have the attention and response you require from your children. And this is an ongoing learning phase. They're going to continually try to push the limits. You cannot afford to be inconsistent or manipulated. And as hard as what it can be, if you don't budge, they soon will stop pushing you. It takes 2 sessions for a kid to know that you mean business. It's not like a habit, 21. You need to do something 21 times to establish a habit. A child, you will see a radical improvement if you can follow through with 2 firm consistencies. I have proven it over and over. So it's all about how you actually handle the situation. I was speaking to somebody the other day as well, and she was saying she's having such a difficult time with her child. Her child just doesn't want to sleep. And I'm like, you can't force a child to sleep if they don't want to sleep. Yeah, but that child's running up and down and wanting to watch TV and keeping them awake till like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? My kids don't have to sleep. They just have to be in bed with the light out. I don't care if they're awake or asleep. That's not my problem. Since when do you need to worry about that? But if they get out of bed, watch out. Because at a certain time, you are in bed and the light is out. No running around, no TV. Sorry, I'm sleeping. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for me. Because this is my house and this is the rule. These are the rules. So you adhere to those rules. And I'm not talking about kids that are ill or kids that are afraid or kids. I'm just talking about naughty, naughty children that don't want to go to bed. And you just say, I'm so sorry, my darling, it's now time for bed, so you hop into bed and don't get out of bed. And you follow through. And we're going to actually learn more about how you would actually follow through with that as well. I'm going to stop there so that we can just have a little breather and a little break, and we will be coming back to continue with some of the notes, and then we're going to go in and watch a very, very interesting video, and you're going to learn a lot from that as well. So see you back here in about 5.
Hold me now in the hands that create. child of God, yes I am. If you've been walking the same old road for miles and miles, if you've been hearing the same old voice tell the same old lies, if you're trying to fill the same old holes inside, there's a better life, there's a better life. If you got pain, he's a pain taker. If you feel lost, oh, he's a way maker. If you need freedom or saving, he's a prison shaking savior. If you've got chains, he's a chain breaker. We've all searched for the light of day in the dead of night. We've all found ourselves worn out from the same old fight. We've all run to things we know just ain't right. When there's a better life, there's a better life. If you got pain, he's a pain taker. If you feel lost, well, he's a way maker. If you need freedom or saving, he's a prison shaking savior. If you've got chains, he's a chain breaker. If you believe it, sin's defeated, you're completed. Come on and testify. If you believe it, sin's defeated, you're completed. Come on and testify, testify. If you believe it, sin's defeated, you're completed. Come on and testify, testify. If you got pain, he's a pain taker. If you feel lost, well, he's a way maker. If you need freedom or saving, he's a prison shaking savior. If you got chains, he's a chain breaker. If you need freedom or saving, he's a prison shaking savior. If you got chains, well, he's a chain breaker. This is where worship starts, here in the temple of my heart, remembering who you are and all you've done. This is your majesty, all I have tasted and I've seen, remembering who you are, and once again I see the Lord forever glorified, exalted and lifted high, and all of the kingdom it cries, you are the Lord.
Right, we're back in the land of sound, so we're heading on. We are going to pick up from page 6. I know I'm skipping big chunks, but I know you're going to go home and highlight, I hope, and digest and really pay attention to what is in the notes, because there's a tremendous amount of really, really good information. And on page 6, I want to just quote 2 quotes that I think are really going to hit home, and I really believe this with my whole heart. If I could sum up everything, it would be these 2 quotes. Children seldom misquote you. In fact, they usually repeat word for word what you shouldn't have said. Your most embarrassing moment is when your child tells the person that you're talking to what you said about them at the breakfast table. And that is children. They don't do it because they've got any guile, but they are listening. And when they look like they are playing and they are distracted, those ears are flapping. The other thing that I believe, children are natural mimics who act like their parents despite every effort to teach them good manners. And it's so true. Because they look to you and they see what you're doing. So when you think they're not looking, they are watching. They are literally copying everything you're doing. It's so interesting because just working with little Sophie, there are so many things that we see in her, and it is like she is quoting Warren or Justine to a T. The way she says things, you'll make a statement to her and she'll say, "My word." And it's like, did we ever sit down and say that? Yes, I say it all the time. Or she will make a statement. The other day she said, I was talking to her and I said to her, "Okay, now you must go and do that and then come and have a look here and look at this thing." And she says, "That's amazing." And I'm like, I know I say that a lot. It's so amazing. It really is incredible. Yeah, she is saying to me, "That's amazing. It's incredible." And I'm like, it's so fascinating. They are like little video recorders and they just project back. And sometimes they project back something and you think, "Oh, where did you get that from? That's really not nice." And then you realize, they've picked up. So what I want to cover is boundaries. Boundaries are beautiful. I love boundaries. I love everything about boundaries. And boundaries are not prisons. They are safety nets. They are not fences. They literally are safety nets. Why do we as parents have such difficulty taking a stand on important issues when our children say, "But all my friends are allowed to," or "Everyone in my class can listen to that music," or "It's the latest fashion and everyone is wearing this"? Since when is the standard of morality or proper Christian values set by a class of teeny boppers or teenagers? And it's common knowledge, and history has proven this time and again, that people are like sheep and the blind leading the blind. So secular society manufacturers and producers will deliver whatever sells best. They don't care about your child's mind or your child's future. They just want sales. We need to teach our children to take their blindfolds off and set a new trend of doing what's right, standing up for what is morally sound and protecting their minds from all the terrible evil found in the movies and DVDs and music and the PlayStation games. The following guidelines are essential if you hope to save your children from the horrendous effects on their minds, lives, and eventual outlook. Do not be afraid to stop them. If you feel convicted because you have received your conviction from the Word of God and you know morally that it's not right, don't be afraid to stop them. Don't let them manipulate you. You've got to actually take the stand. Don't stop them from listening to music that is destructive and has lyrics that will condition them subtly, be it violence or promiscuity, bad language, immorality, or demonic. Justine reminded me the other day. I actually had to laugh because I'd completely forgotten. The song came on the radio, and my youngest daughter was there as well, and she was like, "Yeah, Mom stopped us from listening to this." And you know what it was? I can't even remember it, but it was Teenage Dirtbag. What is that? Yeah, it's Teenage Dirtbag. And I was like, you will not listen to that song. Oh, and the other one that I stopped them from listening to, and they thought I was absolutely nuts, is Suicide. What was that one about? Committing suicide? The guy that sang it? Suicide. Remember? Anybody remember that? No. If I remember the tune, I'll sing it to you. But I was like, you are not going to fill your mind with that rubbish, because that goes against everything that the Lord wants for your life. So you can't listen to that. They're like, but Mom, sorry, I don't care. But we like the tune. Yeah, sure, so does the enemy. Okay, number 2, listen to what they're listening to. And by the way, when I'm saying stop them from listening, do not stop them from listening without a very sound explanation. Get to know what's wrong with it. Explain things to them. Take them to the statistics of how many children listen to music and then end up committing suicide. Don't let it be your word as a paranoid parent because you're thumb-sucking. There are statistics that clearly show, there are massive debates that show that the music our children are listening to is resulting them feeling totally worthless, inadequate, and that suicide is actually a very, very good way out. That's what the songs are saying. Listen to what they're listening to as often as possible. Get the names of the latest bands, the artists, the song titles. Do your research, in other words. Go to number 3. Do your utmost to offer alternatives and not just condemn their choices. And when I say offer alternatives, there are some very, very beautiful Christian songs that have got a lot of depth. So you're not looking, darling, you definitely can't listen to that heavy Iron Maiden stuff. We're going to just sing, Jesus loves you, this I know. We're not talking that. There are songs by Casting Crowns. There are different groups, Mercy Me. There are some really, really beautiful songs. And I even listened to them. There's one by Mercy Me called Dear Younger Me. And it's like, I can now listen and it fits. Then there's a song by Casting Crowns, Slow Fade. And it's so pertinent because it speaks about how slowly but surely you stop coming to church, you stop mixing with Christian people, you start becoming like a coal that's taken out of the fire, and you grow colder and you grow colder and you grow colder. You turn away eventually from everything that reminds you of the Lord, but it never happens instantly. It's never instant. It's always a slow fade. So stop the slow fade. Don't let it happen. And that you can relate to teenagers and they can understand. So as soon as they're with friends and they're actually like, no, let's actually go party, let's do this, slow fades in the back of my mind. There are ways and means that you can actually put it across. Then over the page, many parents allow their children far too much time in front of the TV, playing PlayStation games. Limit viewing, playing to reasonable amounts of time, and set those boundaries. Those boundaries are not a punishment. They are a blessing. Because your child can get excited. I'm going to have 30 minutes playtime. I'm so excited about it. What happens is that at 9 o'clock, parents are literally trying to pull their children away from a PlayStation game. Their minds are overstimulated. They don't want to sleep. They are angry at you because you're spoiling their fun, because they're having fun. And instead of it actually being a stimulating educational process, it becomes a horrendous argument that is destructive and damaging. It affects your relationship. It does all kinds of damage. Boundaries are very easy, just literally 30 minutes. I've got a timer on my fridge that I use for cooking, and literally if I say to them, you can have 15 minutes each on the tablet, it's literally 15 minutes. When the buzzer goes, the next one goes on. Buzzer goes, both of them are off. We're done and dusted. Finished. Barbies, there we come. So you have to manage that. And by doing that, you're not trying to keep up yourself. You're literally just setting a timer, and you are just giving them the time that they need. And the games that they are playing are educational. There's nothing there that they shouldn't be playing. But if I let them play for 2 hours at a time, you need to see their mood. And it has happened. You want to see their mood. They can't control themselves. They're completely out of control. They don't know why they feel terrible. They feel dreary. They haven't been outside. And it's important. All right. If we look at the guidelines, the Lord has given the most precious gift of life in your children. They are the little souls who deserve the very best emotionally, physically, and in their basic needs. They will be who you mold them to be. They will do as you say if you stick to your word, and they will love you unconditionally even when you break your promises and let them down. They're very sensitive, and they don't know yet how to handle certain conflict or emotional situations. Don't expect them to know unless you tell them. Teach them and train them. These things don't come naturally. You are the parent, and you must make time to explain. So the following guidelines are all important. You have to teach your children that boundaries are very important. You start setting ground rules, and you teach your children how to earn their freedom, because freedom should never, ever, ever come without responsibility. So there's always a boundary for your good. Freedom of choice and responsibility will come in steps, not in leaps. You will have your child say to you on numerous occasions, "But Mom, why don't you trust me?" And then all of a sudden, manipulation, right there. Oh, how can I have my child think that I don't trust them? And we've always said to our kids, right from when they were very little, "My darling, we trust you with our whole heart, but we do not trust society. We don't trust anybody else on the planet. There's not another soul that you can get into the car with that we trust." So we have to make sure that when you do get into the car with somebody, there's somebody that we do know that loves and has your best interest at heart. Because there are thousands of people who don't care who carts you around. And there are parents who will invite you over for a sleepover, and they don't even know what their kid's been doing. They haven't got a clue. And you're going to do that, and how are you going to actually get home if you want to get home? So there's lots of things, and we always took that angle. Trust is something that you earn, and if you are going to be with people and you don't let us know when something goes wrong, that trust is removed. It's something like money. You earn it. Children must never take their freedoms for granted, or they'll lose them. As a parent, you have the right to find out if your children are abusing the freedom that they've been given. You can literally investigate anything you like. I say to parents in the school, take your teenage daughter's phone, take your grandchild's phone, and have a look at what is on their phone. This whole story about you are now breaching confidentiality. I'll say, "Please, man, show me your car license," and I'll respect that. Until you can drive a car, I will look at anything on your phone at any time. Your children should grow up knowing that you're going to be checking up on them. If they think you're not looking, it is so easy to manipulate a child. I know full well how easy it would be, and I have no doubt in my mind, to actually coerce a child to leave the premises with me. Easiest thing in the world. And that's how easy it is. So you have got to make sure that your children understand your protectiveness and also what is allowed and what is not allowed. For your children to get more freedom, they must think before they act. They must prove that they can govern and discipline themselves. So based on past actions, if they have been responsible, you're literally saying to them, "I am very impressed with your responsibility, and therefore based on that, I will allow you to go to so-and-so's house for an extra hour." We don't operate like that as parents. It's literally, "Mom, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go, please, 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 no, 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 please, 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 no, 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 I'm so sick and tired of this, okay, just go." That's the pattern. And what is that saying? So, "I want to go to so-and-so's house." "No problem, my darling. Please can I have their mom's telephone number?" "No, you can't phone." Don't tell me who I can phone and who I can't phone. I will phone. And I will find out if the mother's going to be there. And I want to know how long you're going to be there. And yes, you can go. Of course you can go. You can go from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. "Oh, Mom, don't be so ridiculous." Take it or leave it. It's not my problem. My children never stood a chance. I'm telling you now. It was take it or leave it. You can either have 3 hours or you can have nothing. So take it or leave it. And then if they were responsible with that, I would say, "Okay, I now know the mom and I know what's going to happen. You can extend it. I don't mind if you actually stay. I will fetch you from such and such a point." And that's how you actually gain that. They know you're watching them like a hawk. And you know what it means? It means you love them beyond words. You love them in your actions. And then remind them that if they falter and lose their freedoms through irresponsibility, welcome to the Club of Humanity, they can reverse this by adhering again to the rules and showing that they have learned from their mistakes. So when a parent says, oh, it's so sad, it breaks my heart as well. You messed up the last time. You actually got into the car with somebody. You will never, ever go again. What you're doing is you're just waiting. You're making them want to wait until they're old enough to go out there and have a blast. When you no longer can stop them and against your will, they will go. So you need to know everybody makes mistakes. This is a learning curve. If you adhere to the rules for the next 3 occasions, you get back to a trust level. And that's how we do it. That's how we learn. That's how we teach. Vital advice is there, and I'm going to leave you to read that because it is very much a case of going through what we inherently believe as Christians. There's so much good advice out there, but what is lacking in most homes is common sense. Common sense is lacking tremendously. Parents just don't know how to handle it. They become exasperated and then they lose touch completely.